Greetings and salutations. I hope this video finds you doing well. Thank you for watching. It is most appreciated. In this video, I'm going to show you what I do to maintain my Linux network every month. I do this about once a month, and we're going to do updates and backups and move some things around, and I'm going to show you what I have going as far as Linux systems in 2025. It has been a while since I posted a video about Linux. If you are here because of my recent postings about audio-related things, thank you very much. This is the other side of this channel, and at one point in time, this was the centerpiece of this channel, was videos about Linux. And for a while there, I was very deep into the Linux community, and we had the Easy Linux project going. You guys might remember that. Well, these days, it's all gone. I mean, there's no infrastructure anymore. There's no easylinux.com. It is all done with, and it's history. But I'm still using Linux every day. I'm just not posting a great deal of video about it. And I don't really consider myself to be any kind of guru in the Linux community anymore. Maybe at one time I had that status, but probably lost that about 5 years ago. So now I'm an aging neckbeard in the Linux community, and I'm woefully out of touch. I do have a few people that tell me what's going on, so I do know about some things. And so if you're a Linux person and you just came upon this channel and you've never heard of me before, actually look at the channel. Look at the videos on the channel. I bet you anything there's a video that might teach you something. At one point in time, I was teaching a lot of people how to write bash scripts and to automate things for themselves and really capture the power of Linux. And that means we will be seeing a lot of terminal activity tonight, boys and girls. We will be working in the terminal, and I will be showing you code. I'm going to show you how all this stuff works as we roll along. So, what do I do these days? Well, this channel is mainly for entertainment purposes. I just do videos when I feel like it about what I'm into. The last video I did about cassette decks, boy, that one bombed. I got about 500 views in a week. Considering there's 130,000 subscribers on this channel at this point, that's abysmal. Hopefully this video will do better. I'm telling you, man, because it's like the algorithm just does not like what I post. It's like not sharing it with anybody. So if you like the video, share it with your friends, please. I really could use the boost. Appreciate it. Anyway, let's start by talking about the computer that we're looking at. By the way, I want to give a shout out right here to Bram DeHaan, who developed this Easy Linux logo. We haven't seen that in a while. I figured I would bring that up and show you guys. Easy Linux was the name of the project that I was involved with for many, many years. Like I said, it's all gone now. And at one point, I had a contest to let people submit their designs for a logo. And of course, you didn't win anything if I accepted it. But for anybody who is a budding graphic designer, they could always point and say, here, I developed this, and they used it. And this was about the weirdest one that came in, and I really liked it. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it. It's not out there in the internet anymore, but it is most appreciated. So let's start talking about this computer. This is a green PC. And you say, what? Well, it's not really a green PC. It's a case. Green PC was a company that came along about 10, 15 years ago, and they were selling computers that had Ubuntu on them. And there was a fella in upstate New York who had a computer shop who got a hold of one, and he liked the case. So what he did is that he went in and put all new equipment in it. It has a Seasonic power supply. It's an ECM motherboard. It is AMD 3500 GPU, which I really like. And it says here that this is mobile, but I guess that's just the driver that it's using right here where it says video card. This is not mobile. This is integrated graphics. And it has served me very well. This machine will happily play 4K 60 frame per second video with no issues whatsoever. So it's fast enough for everything that I need to do. We're using Linux Mint Debian Edition, so it's X11. It's not Wayland. Maybe Wayland will improve itself. And the piece of software that I'm using to make this video, let's go look at that. It is Simple Screen Recorder, which is written by a fellow named Martin Bert. I hope I got your last name right, Martin. One of my favorite little pieces of software. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with Wayland yet. It works with X11, but it does it quite well. And all of those videos that I have done through the years have been done using this little piece of software, which is a front end for FFmpeg. And I have been able to record acceptable screen videos on computers that could barely boot themselves up. So here it is in preview mode. So that's what we're using. Now, as far as adding to the distribution when I install it, I do put a few programs in. I got my own little stuff that I've written. We'll look at that in a moment. One of the programs I have to have is Audacity because I do a lot of work with sound. I maintain the library for the radio station where I work, and so I do a lot of stuff here. I do have a computer from the radio station sitting next to it that's running Windows 10, and that has Adobe Audition on it. That machine is not on my network. When I log into it, it VPNs into the radio station's network. And so what I do is just I use SneakerNet to get audio from this machine to that one. I'll just save it to a thumb drive and plug it into the machine through USB, and that's it. So that's one of the reasons that I stopped posting on Linux was, getting the job at the radio station, which was in 2019. A friend of mine bought a radio station that we worked for back in the 90s, both of us, and so I went to work for him, and so it kind of took away from my YouTube time, so that's why you don't see quite so many videos here anymore. If you want to hear me on the radio, you can. All you have to do is go to b999fm.com and click Listen Live. It works anywhere in the world unless your ISP blocks it. And if you do that and you get some message about having to make an exclusion for your ad blocker, go ahead and do it. We don't actually serve any ads. You're not going to be served any ads at all. That's not how it works. I don't know why. They were complaining about that a couple of years ago. I will put the link in the description to this video for the radio station if you want to check it out. I'm on Monday through Friday, 7 to midnight, Eastern U.S. time. And we're on daylight time right now. So you'll have to convert that to wherever you are in the world. And it's a live radio show. It's not on demand or anything. And I do not get paid anything if you go listen. Okay, I work for the radio station. We have a streaming service. The radio station pays me. So that's the computer that we are on. And this back here is HTOP running, which is a piece of software that I need to have. Let me see. I was not listing that down there. I had pushed a button. It was kind of strange. This is something that I always add to my machines. HTOP. I like this. It's an enhanced top program that tells you what's going on with the computer. I have an old video up about it. Nothing's changed with HTOP in the years that it's been along. So that's something that I add to the system. I can go ahead and get out of that now. Just see the regular desktop here. And other than that, it's like regular stuff. It's like LibreOffice. I do like Google Chrome. I do not like using Firefox. Some people might find that offensive because why would you use Google? They're horrible and they collect all this information and they're evil. Well, let me tell you what. I have a YouTube channel and I have revenue from that YouTube channel, which means that Google knows everything about me already. They have my telephone number, my address, my social security number, everything. And so there you go. I'm not really worried about what they're going to figure out about me, okay, at this point. And I like the fact that it's updated frequently and it runs everything on the internet. And it is transparent when you are using cross-platform applications in the browser, like Microsoft Teams, for instance. We use that for the radio station. So I use Google. I don't want to fool around with Firefox, and I'm not a fan of Mozilla. at all. For many years, I used the email client from Mozilla, right? Which was Thunderbird, and then I quit using that because now I just do webmail. Because after I got rid of the Easy Linux web page and all of that infrastructure, I didn't need to have a mail client anymore. So this is my big terminal running right here. Check it out. Let's clear the screen. Isn't it beautiful? If you are one of those people that doesn't like the terminal, this is not the video for you because I'm going to be using it. By the way, don't tell me that you can get away with you doing all this stuff in Windows without a terminal, because you know what I found out having to deal with Windows for the last 5 years? There are some things that you have to do in a command line, also known as a terminal in Linux. In Windows we call it the command line, right? But in Linux it's the terminal. Well, guess what? There are some things that you have to do from the command line in Windows too. So stuff it. Okay, so a lot of what we're going to be doing in this video involves SSH, which is a wonderful piece of software that allows you to communicate with other Linux systems or Apple computers or Unix or even Windows. If you have the right software running, you can communicate online with these machines. We're talking about our local network. Make sure I got that right. So what does SSH do? If you're not familiar with this, I'm just going to tell you real quick. This is the secure shell. It allows you to log into another machine on the network as long as you have some way to address that machine. So you could use its host name if you have it set up to do that. If you have a local DNS, which is a name server, right? And if you have that running, then you could use the host name. If you don't have that, and a lot of routers these days do not include a name server, unfortunately. They took that off of there. I guess it was some sort of maybe it was a security risk, or it could have been that Windows really doesn't care and it doesn't broadcast host names like that. So I don't see routers these days that have them running. You could run one on your Linux network if you wanted to, but you really don't have to, because there's another way to do this that I'm going to show you that somebody told me about, where you put something in your hosts file and then apparently it figures it. I don't know how it works. I'm going to show you how I do it. So SSH, like on my network here, the way I do is when I set up a machine, I have a machine that has a static IP address. So this machine that we're getting into is 192.168.0.12. This is the IP address of my file server. So let's go ahead and see if that's up and running. It should be. I turned everything on and rebooted it before we did this, and it's trying really hard. There it is. Now it's in, and you'll see that this server is an Ubuntu machine, and there you go. And it says 0 updates can be applied immediately. We'll check that out shortly. Now that I am into this machine, by the way, this is a little EEE PC. This was one of those tiny little netbooks that was being sold about 15 years ago. That these days, it won't run a desktop. It has an Atom processor in it, and I think it's 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it's a very dinky machine. But it has a regular 2.5-inch hard drive in it, right? And so therefore, I can use this just as a file server. That's all this does. I don't run it all the time. Now, wait a minute, hold on a second. Okay, so it's 2 gigs of RAM in the machine. And we have, like I said, the drive is a 500 gigabyte drive, which will hold all of the stuff that I want to sync to it. So that's what this machine does. That's what it is. And so that's how SSH works. And SSH will also work with other tools. We'll be looking at that shortly. So the reason why it didn't ask me for a password or anything is that you can set up SSH to use keys. So when you go to log in, it looks for the key and it shakes hands over the internet, and it figures out that it's you or the network, and then it locks those two machines together in a secure way. By the way, this is all with a secure tunnel. So it would be kind of cumbersome to write in the IP address every time. So what I did is I created what's known as a stub. So if we go to Ben, which is my local directory here that has all of my little scripts in it. By the way, if you want to get into script writing or compiling software, I highly recommend putting a little bin folder, lowercase bin, in your local directory. And that way you can run programs that are just yours. They are not available everywhere. And hope your distribution of Linux should pick up that you added that directory, and then at boot it should automatically add it. So this is your path, which is where all of your programs are stored. So the first place that it looks is home Joe bin. You see that? That's added. Then the next place it looks is user local bin, which is where most if you create a program that you want to share with all of the users on the computer, you can put it there and it becomes available to everyone. And then there's just /usr/bin, which is where most software goes. And you see it just goes on and on and on here, right? So that way you can even be like working on a piece of software that you've modified, and there could be another version of that on the machine, like the one that everybody uses, but you're working on it yourself. As long as it's in this first part of this path here, it will find this first and not run anything anywhere else. It'll be the first thing that runs. Cool? Very. That's why I say do it this way. That's why I do it like this. And you see I've got a lot of little pieces of software in here. What we're worried about right now is SSHN, which I'm going to show you in Nano, which is a text editor, and you'll see that it's literally one command in a script here. And what it does is it allows me to jump into another machine on the network simply by the last 2 digits of its IP address. Now, what this requires is that all of these machines have static IPs. So if you have your system set up with DHCP, where when it logs on, it asks the router for an IP address and it just gives it one, then you're that makes it hard. All of my machines have static IP. That way I know exactly where they are and how to get to them. Pretty cool, huh? No, I don't want to write it out. I just want to leave. Will it let me leave? Please say yes. Okay, cancel that. Control X, we're out. Been a while since I used Nano. Just realized I didn't know what I was doing there for a second. I was like, wait a minute, this is a program I know really well. So we're using that. So let's do that SSHN, and then now all I got to do is put in 11. Oh, 11 is the machine that I'm on. We want 12. I just logged into the machine I'm actually in. Yes, you can do that. No, I'm not going to edit this. We're going to leave it the way it is. I'm going to make all kinds of mistakes and type things and miss things and type things wrong and everything. And you're just point at the screen and laugh. Have fun. So that's how I get around my network. So let's go ahead and actually get something useful done. Let us first thing we need to do is update the machines. And I use a program called Up to do that. Now, Up was a script that I wrote years ago to just illustrate how to use functions. So let's look it up. We'll look at the code for Up. Okay. And we will scroll up here and take a look. And you'll see that we have different functions here that do different things. And you'll notice, let's go here, you'll notice, like, let's just look at update right here, which is the first one. It's sudo apt update, and then sudo apt full upgrade, and then this is one that always gets people's attention when they see it. Why 2 Ys? Well, let me tell you why it's there. Because if you put 2 Ys together, what that does is it instructs the shell when it runs the program to run it regardless. So you're used to seeing just 1 Y, which means it doesn't ask permission. It just does it, right? Well, if for some reason it has to ask you another question, if you put 2 Y's there, then it will say yes to that one too. That's why it's there. And no, I don't know where the documentation is for that. It's something that I picked up years and years and years ago. Here's another trick that I do in my scripts that some people might find a little bit strange. But the script actually does a command and it looks for dependencies on the script. So when I wrote this, the only thing that this is dependent on is the program less. So what is this, all of this? This one line here runs dpkg and it lists everything in dpkg, and then it throws that into grep here. It sends it to grep, and then grep goes and finds less. And if it finds it, that it's installed, then it says, okay, great, and it dumps out, right? But if it's not there, that's the 2 lines right there, then we run this command, sudo apt install less. We do the YY, which means we're going to force it to do it. And then we have the Q, which tells it to be quiet about it. So basically, if you run this piece of software on your computer, it will go get its dependencies and not even tell you that it's doing it. It'll just ask for permission, and then you say sudo and okay. It just does it. I know it's a little sneaky. Somebody out there who writes code is going to be, that's not cool. No, it ain't, but it's a way to get people to install their dependencies because most people are idiots. So like this clean right here, what it does is when you run it, it's just sudo apt auto clean. See how super easy this is? Now the one that I always use is the remove because it removes orphan packages. And then the other thing that it does is I found out that Ubuntu, when it removes a kernel automatically, which it now does, the old kernel, it keeps 2 installed. And so if you install a new one, it keeps the old one. And then the one before that, if there's any more, it just gets rid of it. It leaves all the configuration files for some reason. So now I have added here sudo apt remove, and then it purges everything out of there. See this? And this is where I get to use awk. I love awk. Awk is a dead programming language, boys and girls. And every now and again in Linux, you grab something from awk. So it's very cool. So anyway, that's what this does. And then there's a help page. See, because at one point in time, like this was published, it was up there. And so we have a disclaimer down here at the bottom of the help page that, this is terrible software and all that stuff. See, I used to be really into this stuff. So then we have different ways of executing it. If you run it with the argument clean, this is what it does. This is remove. And then help opens up the help page. And then we have, if you type anything else in that shouldn't be there, it'll be an error. So that's how that works. Why don't we run it on this machine to see what it does before we run it on the other machine? So if I put in up, remove, right? It's going to ask for my password. And I mistyped it. Told you I would make mistakes. And it's going to do, now it's just running up, and it does. And now it cleans it, and then that's it. We're done. This machine does not need any updates. So that is up. There's the help page, which runs with less. To get out of the help page, all you do is hit Q for quit. Done. Cool, huh? All right, so we know that's working properly. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this screen. Control L does that, by the way, in case you're wondering how I'm doing it. Or you can type in the word clear, which I have done in the past. If you are on older terminals, I have been using Unix and Linux type software since the 80s. And back in the old days, we didn't have these different shortcuts on the keyboard. So you'd have to type in like clear. So every now and then I'll do that. People go, why are you doing that? You just Control L. Because that's the old way. All right, so let's just go to the home directory here. And what we want to do is to SSH in 212, which is the file server. Here we go. File server is very slow. Remember, it's a 2-core Atom, and it takes a little while to get itself together. So we'll do up, and we'll do remove. And it says OK. Ask for my password. And it's going to do, this should be pretty quick for the server. It's, well, this takes a little while because, like I said, this machine is slow. And it has a spinning 500 gigabyte hard drive. It's a 5400 RPM little laptop drive. And it has held up for years. This thing won't die. This computer's 10 years old, guys. No, maybe the computer itself's older than that, but the when I put the drive in, it was probably, I don't know, Lord, 8 years ago. So crazy, huh? And of course, it's taking forever. So let's do this. We can get 2 of these going. So I'm going to SSH in 14, which is the next computer on the network. This machine is called WeeWoo. We're going to do exactly the same thing. And we're going to see what we got going on. So I'm going to put, I can let that one go in the background just to where I get it where it's done. Oh, no updates needed. None. It says the system is up to date. So that would mean that this machine's going to be pretty much up to date too. No, it's downloading something. What are we doing? I don't know. Okay. That's installed. This machine, by the way, that we just logged into, the number 14 WeeWoo, is the computer that Cindy uses all the time. This is way in the back room. I call it WeeWoo because it's the furthest away from the main network hub. It's all the way in the back of the house, and we don't get the greatest internet connection back there. It's on the 2G network because it can't get the 5G, that sort of thing. So it's WeeWoo, WeeWoo, like the SpongeBob episode. Somebody out there's going, this dude's nuts. Well, it's just true. I'm just telling you how it is. So what I want to do is reboot this machine now that we have updated it. And yes, you have to use sudo over the network like that, because if you just do reboot, most of the time it'll just say no way. Let's see. I can replicate that. Watch, it'll make a liar out of me, but we'll see what it does. See? Won't let me do it. Throws an error and says, can't do that over the network. So it's sudo reboot. So we're going to reboot that machine. And we're going to go in here to 16, which is the music box machine. And it says one device has an upgrade. You want to try and do that now? Alright. Let's see what it does. Let's see if we can do a firmware upgrade on this thing. Okay. No, I don't have to do it that way. I know I can do other things, but this is just how I just started doing it. Because all you have to do is highlight it. You can highlight it and then just middle click and it'll do that. So let's see what we get here when I run that. Yes, let's do it. Sure, I'll upload the report. Sure, why not? Go ahead, have fun. I have no idea what I'm doing. No, you will ask me. I'm not one to do things automatically. So does that mean that I have now upgraded the firmware on that machine? I guess. I have no idea what I just did. Yes, I did upgrade the firmware. I'm smart enough to know that. So let's go ahead and run my up, which will run updates on this LMDE machine. Watch, we go to reboot it and it won't come up because we have updated the hardware. We made it mad. Oops. Okay. And it's just go ahead and sudo reboot. Okay, so that machine has rebooted itself. Clear the screen. So that's out over there. Now, what's the next thing we're going to do? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to sync all the files on all of the machines that are up and running. And I use a lovely utility. I have several utilities actually that are built around this piece of wonderment here called rsync, which is one of the most powerful commands in Linux. If you are moving data around over a network, you want to create scripts to back things up, that sort of thing, this is the command you want to get to know. Some of you may be familiar with the program Timeshift, which creates system snapshots. You can also configure that to be a backup utility for your home drive. And if you have not so much data in your home directory, or home drive, home directory, however you want to put that, then that actually works out pretty good. I have too much data to do that way. But so I wrote my own backup utility, which we will take a look at. So let's just look at rsync here, just the man page. I highly recommend, if you don't know what rsync is and you're using like SCP or something like that, secure copy, and learn rsync. Rsync is awesome. Let me get out of here. Let me out. Thank you. So we're going to use a little utility that I wrote called sync all, which starts out with a script called sync it. So let's look at sync it first. And this lives in my utility folder here, my bin. Well, that's not going to work. Let's go here. Go to get here, man. Yep, there we go. Now, nano sync it. Let's open that up. So this is this piece of software. And let's see what we get here. What is that first thing? It says check for arguments before running script. Okay, that's fine. That's in case you have typed in something erroneous. That's why that is there. That piece of code should not be up there, but there it is. That's how I did it that time. Okay, so the first thing that this does is it sets some variables and sets the host IP, figures out what it is, and puts that in a variable here. Is that what that's doing? It's been a long time since I looked at this. Declare functions and variables. Dun, 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 dun. So net IP equals host IP. That's how that works. And then transfer status. So essentially what this does is when I say sync it, it goes and it grabs all of these directories here. If you look here, it does, let's see, what are we doing? We're doing the bin directory. We're doing desktops, we're doing documents, we're doing the download directory, we're doing music and pictures and videos. So if we sync it, what that's going to do, or actually I have videos turned off. There's a reason for that. I've got 100 gigabytes of videos on this machine, and so I don't sync it to my laptops and my virtual machines because there's no room for them, you know what I mean? So that's why that is there. But this is the sync it thing, and it's just an rsync command, as you can see. Rsync with AV, and we delete, and that's it. This is how that's what it is. It just goes from directory to directory, and then there's some code here to figure some things out as it's going along. So let's go ahead and get out of there. We'll do this right the first step. I did it right. I'm so happy. Okay, jump back over here. So let's sync it. Now the reason why I don't want to run it from bin is I think I had made it where it was absolute paths and not relative, but at one point I had that set up with relative paths, and if you ran it from the wrong directory it wouldn't work. So we're going to sync it, and we're going to do, no, I'm not going to run sync it. I'm not going to do that. I'll run sync it later because I want to show you this next thing. So sync it became sync all. So what I'm going to show you now is nano sync all, which is a much more powerful piece of software. And that screwed that up because I typed it in. Well, see, you jumped out of the directory, then you forgot you did. See, this is the sort of stuff that you do when you're trying to talk and type. So let's do nano sync all. Now that should work. And it won't work because look what I did wrong. Do you see what I did wrong that time? I spelled it wrong. There we go. So this is a more in-depth program. What this does is it goes and it looks for machines on the network. And it goes and it runs like a for loop here. So the first thing that it does is it goes to determine if the machine is there. And it tries 3 times, and if it can't get it, then it will tell you that the machine is not online, or it'll tell you that it did what it was supposed to do if it was there. So here's the sync it script that it calls on in a function. It goes and it grabs this, and it just runs it. See, it's exactly the same thing with the same proviso that we're not doing videos. So that part you've already seen. So the first thing that it does is it figures out what machine it's on. So the host IP variable becomes this. We declare that variable, and now we figure out what our own IP address is, and that's what this particular bit of code does. This script relies on ifconfig, which some people, for stupid reasons, consider to be deprecated. Like Ubuntu, this does not come automatically installed anymore, for whatever reason. They're using a program called IP, which I do not like. So one of the dependencies for this program should be ifconfig. I don't have it set to automatically install here, but it looks for it. So it runs which ifconfig, and then it, if it can't find it, then what it does is it'll tell you it's not installed, so therefore it can't run. So it has to have ifconfig. So if ifconfig ever goes completely away, then it's going to be a problem. With Linux Mint, ifconfig is installed by default, and in Ubuntu you have to grab this thing called NetTools. So we'll see how that fares for future, the future here. We'll see. So this tells it to skip the local machine, so it doesn't actually do it. Checking for host IP. Let's see. Runs the script for each machine and then goes back and does it again. I'm trying to see where it does that. Set local. Okay, so every time it runs, it changes the variable. And this is the part down here. It said set host IP variable and run transfer function for each listed machine. So this is the actual execute part of the thing here once it gets everything set up. So you'll notice that 11 is ready, and that's called Big Boy. That's the machine we're on now. Teensy is the file server. 13 is not defined at this point. It's open, and this used to be my son's machine, but he now runs Windows 11, so I don't maintain his crap. He's got to do his own backups and deal with his own stuff because I don't support Windows. And then we have WeeWoo, which is a machine we've already seen. And 15 is reserved. That's actually my work machine is 15, but that's Windows 10. And then MusicBox is 16. So the only ones that I'm really worried about are evens, 12, 14, and 16, and the odds are not being used. I could turn the 13 on because I have a machine that's using that static IP. We'll take a look at that shortly. So that's this particular piece of software there. Hopefully you didn't find that too boring if you're not a code person, but I was actually looking at it trying to figure it out for myself because I couldn't remember how it worked, So now basically all of that makes me be able to do this. I didn't need to do that. I could just type CD. It would do the same thing. I know. You don't need to tell me that. Thank you. So let's run syncall. And it's going to figure out that it's on machine 11. So this is the machine that it's getting its files from. And now it is syncing to all the machines it can find on the network. So I had just one file that changed there, apparently, since the last time I did this. Now it's doing 14, which is WeeWoo in the back. It does the same thing. And now it's doing 16, and all of the machines are done. What this means is that all of the files that are on this machine are now synced to those machines. So if I go sit down in front of that machine, it will be exactly the same files and everything is up to date. So that part is done. We've done the syncs. So what is the next thing that I do on my network? Well, now that we've got everybody synced up and everybody updated, what I want to do is to back everybody up to a drive. I want to create an offline backup. So the first thing that I want to do is go look at my work directory here and see if there's anything I can get rid of. So these two FLAC files here, I don't need that. I do need the B sheet, and I don't need that, and that's it. We'll go ahead and delete those. So I'm going to Shift and delete to just make them go away. We will not. This is the video that is being recorded right now. Big boy screencast right there. So we don't need to mess with that one. And this is stuff for work. Like this is my teleprompter file that I use to read things on the air. Right? So like we have the What Makes Your Heart Happy Quilt Creation Photo Contest, and it's time to vote. The voting ends at the end of March. It's with Fork Mountain Quilting in Rocky Mount. Doesn't say Rocky Mount. I know that, so I give them that part of the shout out anyway. They're a client, and March is National Quilting Month, and it's time to go to b999fm.com and cast your vote in our What Makes Your Heart Happy Quilt Creation Photo Contest, and we've got 3 big prizes. First place wins $300. See how that works? See, when you hear stuff on the radio, this is where it comes from. Cops and Bobbers is a youth fishing event presented by the Rocky Mount Police Department for ages 15 and under, and it's happening Saturday, March the 29th. Well, actually, that means it happened. See, this is out of date. I'll fix this on Monday, tomorrow morning. That's what that is. But I want to keep it around. There's a lot of stuff on there that I need. And I edit that file every time that I get some new information, and that's what I read on the air. So that's not there. So let's go into trash and see if we have anything in there. The trash can is empty. I usually don't throw things into trash unless I'm working on a project. If I'm working on a project, then I'll throw files in there, and I might need them back, so I grab them. But ordinarily, I leave it empty. But anyway, that's how that works. So back to the terminal. So we have all our machines. All our machines are up to date, and all of the files are synced on our machine. So the next script that we're going to look at, clear the screen, is one called BU, and this was publicly available on GitHub, and it was actually very popular, and a lot of people have adapted this to their own use. So it's probably still floating around on Get somewhere. It's just not going to be my exact version. The sync it script and the sync all script, they're very specific to this network and my use. So I shared them with a bunch of other scripts, but I never shared them publicly, mostly because they're just for me. But BU is something that anybody could use. And BU started life as a program called XBT, which was a tool for me to learn how to do computer programming and learn how to write Bash. So Bash, the Born Again shell, is what we're working in right now. People say, why don't you work in Fish, or why don't you use ZSH, or some of these other ones? Because I like Bash. And if I start getting used to doing Fish and people ask me about things happening in Bash, I'll get confused. And that was the thing. I taught Bash, and I live in Bash, and I love it. So, yes. Bash. The GNU Born Again shell. Which brings me to a point. And that is, a friend of mine told me to check out this thing about how Ubuntu is going to be dumping the GNU tools, and they want to use utils. So it's like, what? Why are you doing that? That is change for the sake of change. And that would be a reason for me to stop using Ubuntu, which I will after 2404. 2404 is the last Ubuntu I'm going to use, boys and girls. After that, it will be all non-corporate scripts. So what we were talking about BU. So we're going to nano, and this time I'm not going to make that same mistake again, so you can't laugh at me. Look what I did. I included the path. I'm smart. So what does this do, and how does it work? Well, The XBT program was the idea was to create a backup utility using rsync, and XBT was menu driven in a terminal. In other words, it brought up a menu and you pushed buttons and it was vast. And I got to thinking about it, and I actually rewrote the whole thing to make it more automated and slicker and make it do what I needed it to do. And so that's what BU is. So this is what the code looks like. And this is all to run an rsync command. This is what this does. Right? Because you'll see what it does. It's actually probably better if I just run the program and show you. So what this does is it backs up your system, everything in your home directory, into a special directory which it creates automatically if it's not already there. And it verifies a lot of things along the way. So instead of boring you with the code, which is a bit convoluted, and that's the help page and all that stuff in there. See, these used to be online. No, I don't want to. What did I do? I hit the Q, and I don't want to do the Q. Could you let me out? Search backwards, it says. I'm trying to hit escape, and it won't let me out. Let me out. How do I get out of this? Help, I'm stuck, and I can't get... There we go. Control C. Control X, I'm out. Thank you. So let's just run it. So I'm going to run the program BU, and it comes up and it says BU error, no USB drive detected. So let's get the drive. I've got it sitting right over here, and let's plug it in to the computer. You ever notice that sometimes when a USB port is like on the front of a computer, it can be very difficult to get to? It's like flush with it. It's like trying to find it. Okay, so it opens up a drive which is labeled, the drive itself is labeled BU drive. Okay, and then you'll see here that we have directories for all of the computers on the network. So if we open up Big Boy right here, we have a file that is created. This is called a flag file. It's just there's no data in this file. It's just a file that's created when the program is done, and it lets me know that the last time that I ran this was Sunday, March the 2nd. So, see, that was Sunday, March the 2nd. We're at the end of the month. We're running it now. So that was the first Sunday in March. This is the last Sunday in March, so we're going to do it today. And then here is the etc directory, etc, however you want to say that, or etc. And then we also have in the Big Boy the home, and there is everything that's in the home directory gets backed up. And this is very cool because this is an incremental backup, which means the first time you do it, it'll take a long time to write all this stuff to the drive, right? But then what this is going to do is it's going to go through and look at what's changed. And the way it figures out whether this drive is there is that the drive has to have a partition on it that says BU on it. It has to. So it searches for it. That's how it knew it wasn't there. So now when I run it, it should find it. So let's see what it does. First thing it does is make sure that I have privileges. None of my programs that I wrote should be fired off as sudo, like sudo this, sudo that. They have to be run as you so they know it's you. And it found the drive, and it says, checking for creating directories, and it's running the backup as we speak. And when I first wrote this program, I actually had it set up in a way that it would list all the files that it was doing, which I kind of liked, to watch them scroll up the screen. And then since it was publicly shared, I realized that some folks might not like that. That, people could walk by and look at their computer and their files were scrolling up the screen depending on what they had on it, So it's going to try and back up this file. So every time it's going to try and back up the video file. That file might be locked because it's recorded. We'll see what it does. It doesn't matter. And this looks for changes. that's the way rsync works. When you run rsync twice, it looks for a change. It doesn't. It just updates what's there. Now, yes, you can have where you can have backups, several different versions of a backup, and that's kind of the way Timeshift works. Is it has several versions of a backup, and that's how it's able to keep different snapshots. But this is simple. This is just every time you do it, it just takes a snapshot of what's there and it makes an exact copy of it. And yes, that includes everything on the system. That includes caches, all of it, because if you're going to restore things and make them exactly the way they were, when you start to exempt certain files and things, that's when people get in trouble and it doesn't go back the way it was. So it ran and it synced itself up. And yes, it is now safe to remove the USB drive because everything is synced. So I ran it twice just to show you that. So that's how that works. I usually don't just yank the drive out. I'll go ahead and use the safely remove option here. But you could. It'd be all right. Everything's written to the drive. Backup drive suggestion. Make sure that it's a spinner. Don't do it on a USB drive, or don't do it on a like a memory stick drive, because solid state drives really need power. So you if you wanted to run a backup of something and then put it in the top of a closet, if you came back to it a year or two later and it was just an SSD drive, it may not be able to find it. So for long-term storage, good old spinning rust is the way to go. Now, we've backed up this machine. And I unplugged the drive, which I didn't want to do because I want to show you something now. I'll go ahead and plug this back in and let it figure out that it's there. Did you get... There we go. I'm going to plug that back in. All right. So if we go in here and look now, and we choose Big Boy, you'll see that we just updated that file, and it's saying that we just did that now. So that is backing up this drive. Pretty cool, huh? You may be curious about this one. That's the Jody. That's my mom's computer. And so I will carry this drive over to her house to do an off-site backup. So I have her entire profile and everything right here. So that's what this is and why it's there. So let's go do these other two machines that are on the network. How are we going to do that? Well, I can't take you, but we can do it over the network. So what I'm going to do is carry the drive back and plug it into that machine. And you don't have to wait for me to do that because I'm just going to pause it. So for you, it's going to be a blip, but I'm going to get up and go plug that in. So I'm going to do that right now. All right. I walked all the way to the back of the house and plugged it into the machine we call WeeWoo. So let's go ahead and clear the screen. And what we're going to do is SSH into WeeWoo. Let's do HN. And that machine is number 14. And we're in. And now it will not automatically detect that the drive is there, because that is not how it works when you are in a command line environment. The machine is booted up, but it's just sitting at the login screen. The desktop is what figures out you plugged in a USB drive and then mounts it somewhere that you can get to it. So we're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to have to do it manually. Now, I probably already know where this is, but I'm going to walk you through I do this so much that I can just do this without thinking about it, but I'll walk you through the process. So the first thing that we need to do is find the drive. We need to know where it is in the system, and so we can type in the right thing. So we're going to use the lsblock command, which is lsblk. And with Ubuntu, we see all the snaps. We're not worried. This is Ubuntu 2404 vanilla. That's what we're on. We're looking down here. We want to see all this here. And we see that we have a drive that is a terabyte right here. And this is going to be SDB1, because this is the main boot drive right here. Okay, so we know that that is where our plugged-in drive is. And so let's go ahead, and what we want to do is we're going to use a program. We're going to use a little thing called RBU. So let me switch to my bin directory here, and I will show you RBU. RBU is basically modified BU. That what it does is it doesn't actually look for the drive or anything, and it just runs. You notice there's no functions here or anything. This is just the basic stuff to make this work. Because this is an internal command on my, and it doesn't have help or any of that garbage in there because I don't need it. So let me go ahead and get out of there. Okay, good. See, I'm typing clear again. I go back and forth. So let's go ahead, and first of all, what we need to do is mount this drive somewhere so RBU can find it. Now, RBU is hard-coded to look in the mount directory for the directory that is created normally by the regular BU program for the computer, and it will not do it automatically if it doesn't find it. It'll just say, I can't get to it. So let's go ahead, and before we do that, let's just run it without mounting it and see what it does. Right, see, it's checking if BU drive is mounted at MNT. It says there ain't nothing there. That's how it does that. Okay. So let us go ahead and do what we started to do, which is to mount the drive. Mount dev. What did we say it was? SDB1? Yeah. To MNT. We need to do that as with elevated privileges. Yes, and I also know that that's properly called sudo. But I just say sudo because I've done it for about 30 years now, and it's the way it is. So switch user do, sudo, or also known as super user do. I've heard it said that way too. It can go either way, as far as I know. Now somebody's going to correct me on that. It was never super user do. It's always been substitute user do. Well, I read it somewhere. Let's put it that way. Here we go. So WeWoo this is mounted up, so we should be able to run this now. Let's go ahead and do it. It did find the proper directory. Now, so if I want to add a machine to this drive, what I will do is I will either create that directory manually, or I will run BU on it first, and then you do that. So it's running on the local machine. We're controlling it from this machine. I think that you need to understand that. We are controlling that machine through the network. And it's going through and looking at all the changes, and it's giving us the progress here as it does it. Shouldn't be too much. This machine does not see a great deal of changes on it because essentially Cindy uses it, and she uses it to surf the internet and watch stuff online. It's mainly she has Google Chrome open all the time. And occasionally she'll use LibreOffice to write a document or the scanner or print something, things like that. But really the machine doesn't get a whole lot of use. But I have noticed that over time, just running a browser will create a gig worth of junk in the cache file, which is what we're looking at being backed up right now. It's exactly what it's doing. It's also a good idea every now and again when you're doing these backups is to, because every time this does this, it's going to be comparing what it has already on the drive to what's changed. And some of that stuff is going to be sitting on that drive for a long, long time. And so what I like to do occasionally is just to make sure that we don't get any bit rot, is to just blank out the drive and start over and let it rewrite everything. This machine has more crap on it than I thought. Look at this. This is an HP laptop, positively ancient machine at this point, that has started out. I started out running like Ubuntu, I think it was 1604 when I first got it. I've had it that long. This machine's almost, it was old when I got it. It was rebuilt, so I have no idea when this is from. It's an HP. But it won't quit. And Ubuntu runs, and it has Intel graphics on it, and it likes it. So it looks like we're backing up about 2 gigs worth of stuff here. And it's done. And now the syncing is happening, which means that it's making sure that it dumps all the stuff from one drive to the next. And so I'm going to run it twice, just for good measure. It shouldn't change anything. And let's verify that it worked. I mean, it should be, we know it did. It's telling us, but I just wanted to show you that we can cd mnt. You type that right, it'll work. Yeah, I know. Isn't it crazy? I'm trying to get it to show me what's in there. So we go to BU backups. And the next thing that we're looking for is, yeah, that's fine. What we're going to look for is WeWoo. And we want to go ahead and just go there. And we're going to list that. Now here's where these flag files come in real handy. See that flag file there? It tells us the last time this actually got run. So that's all the way at the bottom of the screen. Let's do that one more time. Clear it off there. See? So you can just list the thing and it'll tell you when the last time it ran. And so we know that's successful. Now, I'm done with this machine. I don't need it up and running. Cindy, by the way, is at work and won't be here until about 3 in the morning. So I'm just going to go power off. And that machine has shut itself down. So I'm going to pause it, and we're going to do this again on MusicBox. I'm pausing. Plugged in and ready to go. So what do? We need to SSH in to machine 16, which is MusicBox. And we're going to, and yes, it looks like my firmware update took. That's good. And it works. Ain't that nice? All right. Look for the drive here real quick. This is Debian, so we don't get any snaps, because I don't run snaps. I use apt, and that's it. If it's not available in apt, I don't run it. You'll see that this machine, let's once again clear, and you'll see that this machine has an NVMe drive in it. So the only SATA drive that we have is SDA1, which is the one I just plugged in. So I don't even... Actually, I never even think about this. I don't actually look at this. I'm doing this for your benefit. So we want to sudo mount, and we're going to do dev SDA1 to MNT, like that. You need elevated privileges to do that. If you get nothing back, that means it did it. So we know that's there. And so what we're going to do now is just run RBU. This one should be faster. This is a much newer machine. Much newer machine. It's just going to, it's comparing the two right now. It's reading, it's looking at the backup, and it's looking at it's rsync. It's what it's doing. It's comparing the two directories to see what needs to change, and then it's running it. And the other thing that I do with this, I don't know if I did that with XBT or not, but this one also backs up the Etsy directory every time. That's really all the information that you need on a computer to rebuild it with Linux, because reinstalling the system itself is so easy. It doesn't take very long, and as long as you have your complete home directory data set and what's in etc. You can get back to where you were super quick. So, like, for instance, if this machine would die, I'm not going to panic. I've got this backed up all over the place. Actually, a lot of times I don't even grab the backups. I do them off the file server. I don't have to because I've got that over there. This is all the same. Everything is synced up the same way every time. So having separate backups on this drive is basically just to have the environments for each machine be backed up. So that's how this works. So we did that. So sudo power off. We are done with that machine. It can go to sleep. And I'll go back and turn it off. And so that's done. So I can just go grab that drive out of there and put it away. So that was the machines. We've done that. We're not done though because I have one more thing to show you. I told you this is told you it's going to be a fun video. It's like a movie. How long have we been doing? I don't even know. Who cares, right? So we have done our machines, and I am going to. No, it's fine. I can just leave that in there. I was going to pause and go get that, but it'll be fine. I'll go get it in a minute. It's fine. There's nobody here but me and my son, and he's in his room playing video games, so nobody's going to bother with it. It's in my room anyway, man. It's not going to get messed with. It's not where I am working. My work environment, I'm in the dining area of the house, actually. We have a very tiny kitchen. It is one of those deals where I have the bottom of an old 100-and-something-year-old house, and they've turned this into one apartment. So it's kind of tight in some places. And this is one of those situations. We don't have much of a dining area, so I've turned it into my office. I actually do my radio show here every day, everything. This is where they record videos and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm going to stop running my mouth. We'll move on to the next thing, which is virtual machines, and we're going to update them. Is this fun? This is like those mechanic videos where you see people change oil. It's exactly what we're doing. So this is VirtualBox, and this is the latest 7.0 version here. Whatever this is, 7.0.24. Can't run 7.1 on Debian 12. They do have a version for it, but it's also using Qt6, which doesn't render properly. So I am on this version. And I have some virtual machines here that I have just so I can play with them. So we'll go ahead and boot them up. The first one would be just regular Linux Mint. This is the Ubuntu based version. And we'll start that up. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. And I just want to update it. It's all I want to do. I don't know when the last time I did this with the virtual machines is, honestly. This virtual machine is like a cheap laptop. It gets, I think I give it 3 cores, and it has 4 gigabytes of RAM. And I make really small drives for these things. They're like 40 gigabytes because this is just for testing. So let's see. I'm going to open up a terminal on this virtual machine, and this will tell me how big they are because I forget how. I did not install HTOP. What's the matter with me? I thought I mistyped it. These machines should have HTOP. It's unmodified at all. This is just Linux Mint as it comes from the distribution with a few things in it. I do have some. I have some of my scripts in here and that sort of thing, and this is just for fooling around with it. The only Linux Mint that's not based on Debian that I have in my life is my mom's. So this is kind of a platform to be able to test that out. So I give them 3 cores, and it's 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's what I was trying to figure out. So we have the same stuff here. Up, remove. Let's go do that real quick. And you'll notice how quick this runs. These virtual machines actually, and I can't believe this, they're faster because the drive they live on is It's actually an old SanDisk SSD, but it's the original architecture that's a bit faster than like the newer ones, and it also has XFS as its file system format on that disk. So if you are an advanced enough Linux user to know what ext4 and XFS is, this is an XFS drive. This drive does two things. It stores Linux virtual machines, and I use it as a scratch drive for audio production for Audacity. It's the only reason it exists. I'll show you the drive here shortly. I'll show you where it is and all that good stuff. So while that's doing that, let us go ahead and open up these two machines. And the reason why I don't try and fire them off all at once to be all impressive, like, ooh, watch 4 machines take off, is that LMDE machine right there is not like these. These are tiny little VMs that really don't take up that much space. The LMDE machine is actually a fully functional machine with, it's got files on it and everything. If I should ever have to clone a machine very quickly and get up and running, that's why that exists. I can actually use something like CloneZilla to clone that machine and then put it on hardware, and it'll boot up, and all I have to do is make sure the drivers are installed, and that's it. So let's go ahead and do the Ubuntu machines. I have 2 of them. We have 2204 and 2404. Now, one of the things I have noticed with 2404 in particular in a virtual environment is that it will freeze constantly. You're just sitting there, it's been running for about 5 minutes, and then you click on it and you have no control over it, and you have to reset it. It's kind of disappointing. It's one of the things I was really looking forward to when I got a machine that would finally do virtualization worth a damn again, was to do it, and I have found that it's very unstable with certain guest systems. So we do the same thing here. We're just going to go ahead and run that. So this is going to update itself. And we'll switch to this machine, which I just logged into. Open up a terminal yet again. And I can make that a little bigger. How am I making it bigger? Let me tell you how you can manipulate the size of a terminal real easy. Use Control and Shift, and then the plus equals key next to backspace. It might not be next to backspace if you're on a laptop, but find the one that's plus and equals. And if you do that, that will make it bigger. Or you can make it smaller by just hitting Control and then the minus dash key there. One with the hyphen on it and the underline. And that works with pretty much every terminal out there, I think. Definitely works with GNOME Terminal, which is what most of this is. Okay, so we're going to do updates on these machines. And then one of the cool things is when you're working with VMs, if you want to see what's going on, use your right control key to back out of the VM and get control on the desktop. And now we can look at all this stuff. Love Linux Mint Cinnamon, by the way. Cinnamon is my favorite desktop, boys and girls. And somebody had posted, he says, well, I see you're using Linux Mint. Does that mean you're okay with using Cinnamon? There was a comment I got on a video not too long ago. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally okay with it. I love it. I find it to be halfway between GNOME, which doesn't have enough features for me, and every time you turn around they're removing more, and KDE, which does too much, and it's a pain to get configured properly. Cinnamon is like Goldilocks. It's just right. It's traditional, which I like. Don't get me wrong. I actually like always did like the GNOME 3 experience. I have no problem working with it at all. I used to have it on 2 laptops, and now I only have it on 1, but I had 1 laptop that died. The old, before Music Box came along, I had another machine that died, and that was running Ubuntu 2404. It didn't have Linux Mint on it. So we're just waiting for this one VM to get done. We don't really have to wait for it to get done. I'm going to go ahead and launch this one. Now this is the big mama right here. This is the LMDE. Double click. There we go. I was single clicking and wondering why it wouldn't work. Because you're not doing it right. This machine is bigger. This one has 8 gigabytes and it has a 100 gigabyte hard drive. So, like I said, I can actually clone this and have most of the files I need. Like if somebody, I could clone this machine and then put it on a laptop and boom, it's ready to go. At least that is the thing that I tell myself to justify wasting the hard drive space and the time playing with it. So yeah, there's my Linux Mint Debian machine, and you'll see that if I go in here, I mean, there's like actually stuff on this machine. I even have the music directory. So this virtual machine, the other virtual machines use DHCP. They just go out to the router and they ask for an IP address because usually if I'm using SSH, I'll do it from the VM. I'll give you an example here now that that's done. Let's go ahead and sudo reboot. What the hell? Okay. Let's go ahead and reboot this machine. Yeah, buddy. No, I don't make this many mistakes when nobody's looking. I swear, it's true. It's just when I'm recording. It's been the bane of my existence since I started doing this. Is if I have to type and talk at the same time, I will screw it up. Brain just doesn't want to function that way. Okay, there we are. Let's get back to this machine. Forgot what I was going to show you. Oh, SSH. So one of the things that, one of the tools that I use a lot, and it's very old school, is a thing called SFTP, which is an FTP program that's Secure File Transfer Protocol. And it works with SSH. So if this thing comes back to a desktop, I'll open it up and show you. So usually when I use SSH, I'm trying to get into another machine. There you go. Just make this whole this virtual machine is now just one that looks like a terminal, doesn't it? It's a full screen terminal. So SFTP works like SSH in that you SFTP and then I wrote a stub called SFTPN. So I want to go to the host machine, which is 11, and it's asking for a password. And the reason why it's doing that is that I don't usually have keys on virtual machines. I do on the big one. I do on the LMDE machine. Now, what are we looking at here? Well, we can go get a file off this other machine if we wanted to. So I can let's go to get. Use the get command. Work, right? And we're looking in that directory. And then remember, we had a file in there called bsheet. Okay, so I want the bsheet. And it's not going to let me... Oh, it's BB, that's why. Let's do this. There we go. Autofill is nice if you use the right combination. So now that it's got that, so if I run ls, it is showing me the home directory on the machine that we're logged into, so I can go get files off of. So you'll see we have chart hits, archive, and audio, and all this stuff. If I use LLS, this is the list of the stuff that is in the directory of the local machine. And so we can change directories here real easy. If I do LCD, I could go to a directory here if I wanted to. Let's just jump into Snap, just for the hell of it, just to show you that it works. And then, how do you know you're there? Well, you do... PWD. LPWD would be local present working directory. There we go. And so that's where I am on the local machine. And if I just do PWD. Then it's going to show me where I am on in the machine that I'm logged into. So pretty cool, huh? It's a great little piece of program. Great little program. So let's go ahead and exit, and we'll ls. And you see that we have that little program, that little file there, B sheet. I want to get rid of that. RM B. Use the autofill. This time I did it right without making the mistakes, and boom, there we go. Isn't that cool? Very cool indeed. So this machine should be up to date. We can go ahead and shut it down. So we're just going to do power off. Did I run? Yeah, I ran updates on that, didn't I? Pretty sure I did. I did all the machines. Well, won't hurt to do it again just in case. Like I said, I'm really doing maintenance here. I don't want to forget something. And I had one that it wanted to upgrade there. That's very strange. Okay. We're out. Turn that. Just go ahead and shut that machine down. And this is this machine. Let's go ahead and run that up on here too. Don't know whether there's going to be a whole lot of stuff here. I really like that auto remove because it'll get rid of the old kernels. And you really only need the current kernel that you're using and the one before it in case something breaks. That's all you really need. So while we're here, we can go ahead and, yeah, that machine's good. So we will power that off. And it did that again. What is the deal with that? Here we go. I clicked on the desktop, I think, and not the terminal. So we'll go ahead and shut that down. And this is, what do we have open? So I've got two of these open. This is Linux Mint up here. So we can go ahead and power that one off. See, it removed all that stuff. That's pretty cool. Alright, that's done. And this is updating. Oh, this has been a long time since I've run updates on this, hasn't it? Still shouldn't take too long. Okay. Now before I shut that down, what I want to do is to click on the desktop out here. You can click on the desktop, or you can use the right control key to jump out of the machine and jump onto your desktop. So let me go here. I want to open up a terminal, and we're going to run syncit, and we're going to use 13. This machine is static IP 13. It's like I said when I was pointing that out earlier. There's some machines aren't. So there you go, done. And get rid of that. And then we can go ahead and power this machine off. It's all synced up and caught up. Don't need to do anything else to it. And now what I would like to do is I'll get this started. You won't see it finish because it takes way too long. Let me go ahead and jump in here and just show you where the drives are in this machine. So if I go to my computer, that doesn't show me that. Where do I go? File system. Duh. So what do we have? We have a drive here for home. That's its own drive. So the machine boots off of the NVMe drive, which is a Samsung Evo 970. This is a 960, or an 860 rather. This is an 860, which is the home drive. So that's a SATA terabyte that is turned into home. And then we have another drive in here called VM, and that is the SanDisk, and this is XFS instead of NT. I almost said NTFS. That's Windows. ext4. Why am I running XFS? Big files. and I need to have, when you're running with big files, audio files or virtual machines, it's nice to have multi-threaded access. You don't get that with ext4, so it performs a little bit better. I think XFS is a little bit more shaky, though, as far as the potential for having errors just because of the way the journaling system works. So I'm not going to use it on my main machine, but for this application, it's fine. If one of these VMs dies, who cares, right? So what I'm going to do, this is the last thing I do, is I'm going to grab another drive here. This is a spinning 500 gigabyte drive, and it's a USB 3. And I'm going to plug that in. We're going to let that figure out it's there. And there it is. And you'll notice it says VM. So if I click on it here, you see that we have ISO images. We have, what else we got here? And all the virtual machines. There they are. So this is the backup for that drive. It'll back up everything on it. And I don't have a script to do that. I just use rsync. So the last thing I'm going to show you is a raw rsync command to make this work, and really how easy it is to use once you learn the syntax. So let's go ahead and bring up our, well, should we do it in our full screen terminal? Let's do it over there. Yes, we'll do it over here. Control L to clear. I was just about to type clear. I go either way. Alright, so what we need to do, this is actually pretty easy. So the command is going, and we don't need to do this with raised privileges because I own everything here, okay? So we're going to do rsync, and we're going to do argument A, which is archive, which means transfer the file and keep the modified date and everything exactly the same. So we're archiving the file. I want it to be verbose. It'll tell me what's going on, so I use V. And then the next thing that we're going to do is delete, which means if there's anything in the destination directory that's not in the directory we're coming from, go ahead and just blow that out of there. And then the next thing we're going to do is progress. And there is a single letter way of doing that. Wait a minute, why did I do that? Because you clicked the wrong thing, man. There you go. There you go. Progress. There, now it's correct. It'll work. So we're going to use those. Progress will show us the files go up the screen. Progress 2, I believe, is the one that comes up and doesn't show you the files. It just shows you the status, like status, data, whatever. Like the one that I showed before. I always get confused on those words, and people get like wound up about it. If you're in England, it's status, right? And if you're in America, we call that status. And data should be data everywhere. That's one I've trained myself to say properly, is data. But then you hear people say data all the time. So which is right, man? I don't know. I'm so confused, and I make money talking. It's how I eat. But yet, I don't know. Anyway, so let's put in our directories that we want to work from. So we're going to, the source directory is VM. That's easy. Done. And we're going to send this to media, Joe, and the drive is called VM backup, and we're going to send it to VM. And that's it. This is the command. So if I hit enter, it should work. Let's hope. Here we go. Yes, it is working. It's going to back up all of those virtual machines. And this will take a while because we're running at USB 3 speeds, and it is a spinning drive that we're backing up to a 5400 RPM. So that will be a little bit, take a little while. So we'll just skip over here, and I will say my goodbyes. I hope you got something out of this video. Love to hear your comments and suggestions. If you've watched this far, you are awesome, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, there's some things that I think I wanted to talk about, which I forgot about, but we've been doing this so long now that I'm going to stop because It's getting late and I'm getting tired and I think I want to go to bed and I got to work in the morning, y'all. So thank you for watching/listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it, and at least you could laugh at all of the typos and all of the mistakes that I made on the keyboard. But I knew I was going to do that anyway, because I always do it when I type and talk, and I haven't done this kind of video in a long time, so I am very much out of practice. We will talk again soon.